Hello and welcome to Business 7. My name is Jo Marie Daddy and I'm joined by Philippus Usiku, my counterpart on the financial desk of Namibia Media Holdings. Hello Philip, we've got a really interesting program for the viewers this time.
Interesting show ahead, so very
Certainly,
excited.
Especially with Philippus, who's going to talk in depth about oil imports into Namibia and how that is shaping our trade account. We'll be right back.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
And the ball is in your court, Philippus. You wrote the lead in Business 7's printed edition for this week on oil imports, of course, the printed edition in the three Namibia Media Holdings dailies today. That is Namibian Sun, Republican and Algemeine Zeitung. And of course, you can also read the stories on the various papers' websites, their Facebook platforms, and on the Business 7 LinkedIn account. But let's get right to the crux of the matter. Philippus, how important has petroleum oils become in Namibia's trade?
Yeah, so the Namibia Statistic Agency recently released the trade statistics, and there are some interesting figures there. The trade stats indicated that Namibia's import bill came in at 10 billion in January, while exports came in at 7 billion, so leading to a deficit of about 3 billion. So, but the interesting thing is that the import bill was mainly driven by petroleum oils, which were mainly sourced from Singapore, the Saudi Arabia. And yeah, the scary thing is that analysts have warned that this is due to the weaker rand. And because we need to understand that when you are importing, those goods are quoted in US dollars, and if your currency is weak relative to the US dollar, you are likely to have an inflated import bill. And we need to understand that when your currency is weak, exports becomes expensive and your exports become very cheap, because that means that you would require more of the foreign currency to buy those goods. But for the other countries, when they are buying goods from us, they will only require very little of their funds to get access to our goods. So yeah, that's really the issue there. Our import bill being driven by petroleum oils due to our weaker currency.
Exactly, and that's always been like a two-edged sword, rather, when it comes to the rand. Because as you say, on the one hand, our export earnings increase, but or decrease rather,
yes.
and our imports become more expensive. So benefits some industries, but very much more tilted to the tough side. Philippus, so this $10 billion import bill, what is important to understand, I think, is that we shouldn't all of a sudden think that we're importing masses more of petroleum oils, but that it is rather driven by the fact that it's more expensive. So that the amount, the money, not really so much connected to the volumes we're bringing in, but rather to the currency, the strength of the currency.
Yeah, that's correct. This just because it's in terms of value, and like we just discussed now, it's because of the weaker rand that is inflating the bill. So yeah, and there are also analysts have warned that because of now South Africa's grey listing,
Yes.
there is a risk of it even depreciating further.
Precisely.
So that means the import bill could be even boosted further. So yeah, scary times.
Times ahead, no taking the foot off the brake there. Before we come, I'd like to speak a little bit about the outlook, what analysts are expecting for the rest of the year in terms of Namibia when it comes to the fuel price. But before we get to that, this is the same question. I'm sure you've been in the debate, everybody's been in the debate. How come Angola's oil is so cheap? And why can't we just import our fuel from Angola? Now, Mines and Energy Minister Tom Alvendu recently spoke in the North and once again explained this whole issue in layman's terms. Let's take a look.
Why is the fuel cheap in Angola? I think that's the real question. Why is fuel cheap in Angola? Such that now it creates this problem. Now, and why can't we buy from Angola? It's a right question. Why can't we simply go and buy? It's cheap. Now, let me just explain this way. Which Angola does not produce petrol and diesel for their own need. Angola does not produce all what they need, petrol and diesel. They only produce about 15% of what they need. They only produce 15% of their diesel and the petrol. The 85% they import from the very same market where we buy. And we all buy around Singapore, the very same price. So the question is then, how come then they are selling is cheap? The truth of the matter is simply because Angola is in a position because they have got crude oil. The crude oil, when they take it out of the ground, they sell that crude oil, they make money, and use that money to subsidize the fuel when they buy fuel from the international market. For example, the current price, it's about, let's say if we buy per liter is 20 Namibian dollars. And Angola also buy the same, at the same price at 20 Namibian dollars. But when they bring in the country, they will then sell that about $8 or $12. But they bought that at $20. But they sell $12. The difference, which is 16, which is 18. Sorry, no, my mathematics no. The difference between 20 and 8 is about $12. What happens to the $12? What happens, Angola then subsidizes that $12 using their money that they get from the crude oil. And therefore they make it cheaper to their consumers. Now, Angola is not going to sell to Namibia at a price which they subsidize. Why would Angola want to sell it to you at $8 if I bought it at $20? In fact, I was in Angola. I had a discussion with my counterpart, the Minister of Energy. He's saying he got a problem because now what is happening in Angola because of that subsidy? Now suddenly Namibia is buying that same from the pump, which is subsidized. The same is DRC. The same is Zambia. In fact, their biggest problem is not even Namibia. Their biggest problem is DRC and Zambia. Because the same thing is happening with their border of Zambia. The Zambians come and buy this fuel simply because they are going to come and help subsidize it. So it's not true that fuel is cheaper in Angola just because they have got cheap it. It's because they are using government money to make it cheap. Unfortunately, we are not in the same position where we currently can now subsidize fuel to make it cheaper.
So Angola not an option. Forget about it. It's not going to become cheaper. But what do the experts say, Philippus? What can we expect in terms of fuel price for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so this month, the Ministry of Energy already increased the price of petrol by $1.50. A liter of petrol now costs $19.70, and diesel it's about $20. So like we discussed before, one of the key risks is of course the weak rand, which will inflate the import bill, but also there are also some uncertainties regarding demand and supply of oil. Recently, the analysts expect that the opening and recovering of China's economy, which is one of the biggest economies in the world, will boost demand. And also, and you know, when demand is more,
exactly,
it obviously causes some sort of shortage, and suppliers take advantage of the situation. But also on the supply side, we have had reports that the EU imposed price caps on Russian oil exports as a move to limit their revenue, and also just to punish them for the Ukraine invasion. So we have also had reports that the Russian Federation, for example, has cut production. So that is sort of already causing a shortage in the market from the supply side. So yes, supply, the mismatch between demand and supply is expected to increase oil prices, and analysts are expecting that we could see in mid 2023 we can see prices at around 23 Namibian dollars per liter, and in the worst case scenario we might even see it shooting to 25 Namibian dollars per liter. So that's really scary.
That is extremely scary, because as we've often discussed in this forum, the moment your fuel price increase, it just spills over into various aspects of your inflation, and then everything gets a little bit more expensive because the consumer has to carry the burden of the transport costs.
Yeah, that's true. And interestingly, our neighboring country, South Africa, which we heavily depend on imports, also recently announced an increase in fuel prices. And I was checking at the trade stats, some of the main goods that we imported from them are vehicles. And of course, these vehicles operate on fuel. So bringing them here, and also some sort of other goods that we import from them. So that's an extra cost. So I think in the coming months, of course, we can expect that to kick into our inflation figures. And already the inflation stats in 2022, it averaged 6.1%, and in January it came in at 7%. So yeah, it's really a bit scary.
Yes. So brace yourself or get a bicycle. Thanks, Philippus. We'll be back shortly.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvinted.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vinted, a member of Capricorn Group.
Let's return to the rest of Africa for a bit. Philippus, of course, the French President Emmanuel Macron visiting. It was also in our business highlights, but he also visited the Democratic Republic of Congo. He wasn't all that welcome there, but let's take this look a look at this report filed by our colleague at Reuters, David Doyle.
Emmanuel Macron wrapped up a tour of several African countries at the weekend on which he has sought to dispel France's image as an arrogant former colonial power. At a joint press conference in Democratic Republic of Congo, the French president acknowledged that his country was among foreign powers jostling for influence. But he also said he was committed to working with countries on an equal footing.
Today I wish for France to stay true to its role as an unwavering ally to the DRC to defend its integrity and its sovereignty.
Congo's capital has, over the past week, seen several small-scale protests. They're a sign of rising anti-French sentiment that has been seen in other parts of Francophone Africa. In Kinshasa, perceptions are that France is close to Congo's neighbour Rwanda. Congo accuses Rwanda of backing rebels from the M23 group, whose recent offensive has displaced hundreds of thousands of people. Rwanda denies supporting the M23. Macron said he had been very clear about condemning the M23 and those who support it. He also pledged $36 million of aid to Congo's conflict-hit east. But there were also signs of tension at the press conference, with the French president appearing to suggest that insecurity in Congo over the past 3 decades was mostly its own fault.
You have not been able to restore your sovereignty, neither military, security or administrative, in your country. That's also a reality. You shouldn't look for culprits from outside.
This was Macron's 18th visit to Africa as president. It also follows recent tours by high-level officials from the US, Russia and China, seeking closer ties. France has suffered recent messy breakdowns in relations with some former colonies in West Africa. Macron's trip, including first-time visits to Congo, Gabon, Angola and Congo Republic, reflects that France is now seeking to turn the page.
Besides fuel, of course, one of the hot topics in the economy this year and last year, Philip, is interest rate, monetary policy from the central bank side. And the Bank of Namibia recently getting experts and researchers together to discuss this whole idea of the monetary policy and the way they're thinking. I think that's a good thing, don't you?
Yeah, I believe it's a very good initiative and platform for people to come discuss these issues, because sometimes this interest rate is being taken out of context,
it
and people thinking the central bank is an enemy, but there are various reasons why the central bank is acting in the way it's acting. So I feel it's a very important platform. We have seen the bond at the last monetary policy announcement increasing the repo rate by 25 basis points to 7%, and the public were not very happy with it. So yeah, I believe it's a very good platform so that people can understand.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing, is that the man in the street, the layman, understands exactly what it is that a central bank is supposed to do in an economy. And nobody can explain that better than the International Monetary Fund. They've compiled this video on the role of a central bank in the economy.
Hi, I'm Alex. Let's talk about banks, specifically central banks. Believe it or not, they're really important to our everyday lives. Central banks manage the flow of money in a country's economy, so things don't go haywire. They're typically part of the government, although they should operate independently. The specific roles of central banks vary from country to country, but they usually have a few key responsibilities. Mainly, they're in charge of monetary policy to keep prices stable. One way they do this is through what's called the interest rate, which is the cost of borrowing money. Central banks lower interest rates, making credit cheap to boost the economy. Because when credit to buy things, such as homes, food, and cars gets cheaper, people tend to buy more. And who doesn't love that? But when prices get too high, central banks can raise rates, making money more expensive to borrow. This can slow growth, but it also brings down prices. Central banks also buy and sell foreign currency. They can do this to weaken or support the value of their own currency. Stability isn't just about keeping prices steady. That's why central banks also play a key role in preserving financial stability. For example, if a commercial bank is in trouble, a central bank can give them a loan, but only as a last resort. Central banks have been using all of these tools to help keep things stable for hundreds of years. Okay, so why am I telling you this? Well, whether you're buying bread, or a pomegranate, or even starting a business, that stability is important for all of us. And here at the IMF, a big part of our job is providing policy advice that can help central banks all over the world meet their price and financial stability goals.
Not an easy job, but I hope our viewers now understands a little bit better that the central bank is not out to get you, it's out to protect you rather. But let's take a look at the responses of some of the experts and the researchers, etc., who attended this monetary policy discussion at the Bank of Namibia recently. This video was compiled by the central bank.
Yeah, well, we had a very good event. We had a great discussion with the governor and with the members of the MPC. I think this is a great idea that the Bank of Namibia is initiating this debate with civil society and with other economic actors. So it is really good that we can have a discussion around monetary policy and that we are able to give our input. Because really when you put many heads together, you are able to sort of tap into different ideas. And I'm sure that the Bank of Namibia will take those proposals on board, even as they proceed with the next round of interest rates adjustments. And I'm sure also for the rest of the economy, as the Bank of Namibia is also a principal advisor to the government, I'm sure that all the ideas that we have given here will be put to good use.
So this dialogue was actually very informative. I think it's a wonderful idea from the Bank of Namibia to be able to sit down with the MPC and the governor to discuss monetary policy and other issues going forward. I think these discussions need to be had more in order to harness the minds of many intelligent individuals and stakeholders within the economy so that we can grow moving forward. And just in terms of the expectations, I would say that although we are seeing some headwinds in the global economy, I still think that Namibia is in a recovery phase and there is optimism for our growth going forward. I would also like to say that we do now understand and have a clear picture as to where or why the Bank of Namibia is making these policy decisions. And I think we aren't exactly out of the woods in terms of the rate hiking cycle, given the inflation that we are currently seeing. But I do think that there will be some stability moving forward.
I really enjoyed the monetary policy dialogue this morning. I really want to applaud the bank for arranging it. I think it's a really good initiative, also trying to boost transparency and just providing us with a platform to raise our questions. So I definitely think it is a useful thing to do going forward, and I certainly look forward to attending these dialogues in future. At the start of 2023, we are a lot more positive than what we were 12 months ago. Certainly there are a lot more positive developments in the economy taking place that make us more positive about the future. Certainly when we talk to our stakeholders, our clients, and just listening to other economists present, we do see that sentiment has changed, and it's changed to be more positive. And I think that in itself is a good thing, because the more positive-minded people are in general, it influences their decisions that they make, and obviously it leads to better outcomes. So I think that in itself is a good thing, and that's one of the reasons why I guess our forecast is quite aggressive. We are forecasting 3.7% GDP growth for this year, which is considerably higher than what the bank is forecasting at 2.7%. And I think from other forecasts I've seen, we are sort of on the higher end. But I think, it's just obviously all the positive developments that we are aware of in various sectors of the economy that make us confident to be at the higher end in terms of growth forecasts.
At Bank of Namibia, we want to thank the audience that made the time to join us today, whether it was in person or online. As an institution, we really value the opportunity to be able to have dialogue and debate, especially around important themes and topics that affect the livelihoods of every Namibian. We will continue to welcome open discourse and conversations with the public when it comes to some of the key decisions that are affecting the lives of everyday Namibians. And we welcome comments from the public in ways in which we can continue to build confidence and trust in this great organization. Moving forward, we look forward to having robust and engaging conversations with the public as we continue to find ways to really embed ourselves within the lives and communities of everyday Namibians. Thank you.
Thank you so much to FNB for this opportunity. Thank you so much to FNB. What an experience. I never got to do shopping in 5 minutes, but look at all this.
Well, Philippus, that was certainly a jam-packed program. Thank you very much for your very insightful contributions. I don't know what I'd do without you as a partner at the financial desk of NMH. This is us. This is it for us.
Yeah.
For this week, but we'll see everybody again next week, same time, same place. Until then, stay safe.
Bye.